Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the God. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
Yes.
Jay Williams.
It's good to be back.
Welcome back.
He's probably super high off life right now after watching Duke have that marvelous comeback last night.
Oh, it was a good win last night.
Yeah.
It was a good win. I like seeing other teams cry. It's pretty funny.
Oh, my goodness.
How good is that team this year, man?
Look, man, you got the number 1, the number 2, and potentially the 4th pick in the NBA draft. You got Zion Williamson, who's going to be like a marketing dream. Everybody wants him to come to New York. I mean, it's not every day that you see somebody who's 6'7" with a you put him all in the Knicks uniform already, G? I mean, look, it's feasible.
Kyrie Irving.
It's feasible on KD. It's feasible.
Okay.
Yeah, plus the Knicks are breaking all kinds of records now.
Shut up, Yee.
Hey, can I just say, don't sleep on Brooklyn? No, we got cap space too, though.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Brooklyn's already balling right now, even
We're
without
on the same
any...
Brooklyn team. Just want to make sure that we get some love.
I like both. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm a New Yorker, but go ahead, continue.
No, so it's not every day you see somebody who's 285 pounds that has a 43-inch vertical.
Yeah.
Like literally on the vert machine, like he clears the vert machine. He did it 2 times.
Wow.
Like with ease, like not even jumping. So then you have him, RJ Barrett, who obviously his godfather, Steve Nash, his father played in the Canadian National League for a long time in the NBA. And then, Cam Reddish, who last night, I mean, he probably made another $1 million last night just with the way he played. A lot of people were worried about him being somewhat of an enigma offensively, but he just racked him up last night. So, yeah, potentially the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd or 4th pick in the draft.
So all 3 of them come out this year?
100%. All four of them are coming out. Trey Jones is going to come out too. Yeah, he'll be top 20, top 25.
I don't even. I guess.
No,
I always think about if I'm a college person. Like, what's the point
of going to
college?
college?
It's like a tease.
Going to college?
Like, yeah, you bring me in for a year. This program, Duke is here right now.
Uh-huh.
What do they do next year?
Well, the thing is, playing like Duke is. Look at the way ESPN has marketed Zion Williamson. I mean, you see him every single day. Every day.
Yeah.
So if you don't go to college, you're not getting that kind of visibility. Think about how much you can leverage that walking into the door for any brand. It's like, give me $3-4 million a year now. And that's what it's all about. It's about that visibility and marketability.
Got you.
So it works. And that's what we did this whole show about, too, which is really fun about
Let's talk about the
The
show.
business
Yes.
of sports.
And I see all y'all businesses all the time. I know about you on real estate. I know about you and your juice bars. I see what you do, obviously. We share somebody together in Karen Kinney. So, I mean, it's really about how you evolve your own business. And now I think it's actually somewhat culturally relevant to be business savvy, where that hasn't always been the case.
That's a fact,
Absolutely.
man.
That's not always been the case.
We've been so busy being consumers for so long. Now it's just all this emphasis on ownership and entrepreneurship.
I'll tell you, man, when I first came out of college, I got a chance to start reading a book that really changed my life. It was called Powernomics by Claude Anderson, right?
Yes, great book.
I don't know if you guys have heard about it. And it's so incredible where it talks about, hey, right after Jim Crow, when everybody felt like they were doing African Americans such a service by desegregating socially, but that was just that was one of the symptoms. That wasn't the cause of the issue. Right, and how it should have been about the redistribution of wealth and power, because the reality is that was always maintained by Caucasian people for a very long time. Right. So it's not until right now that we have certain African Americans that are in that rarefied air. And there's so many times where, for me going to a school like Duke and playing this game, I'm the only black person or only minority in the room. And I have to be comfortable in my own skin. But then when I go back to my home, I was being called an Uncle Tom or a sellout because I was trying to play in that world and trying to establish myself business-wise. And now I think it's cool to be smart. It's cool to be savvy. It's cool to understand how your business works in and out. And it's cool to not let people be culture vultures and extract from our culture.
Integration depowered us in a lot of ways, too. Because before that, we had our own everything. Because all we had was each other. But then when integration happened, it's like we started depending on the white man. Way too much.
And it is important when we become successful that we do things in the areas where we're from to help build up those areas also, like to own businesses instead of letting other people come in and own those businesses.
It's scary, and watching what KD and Rich Kleiman have done is pretty special because they've made so many investments. They invested in Postmates, which obviously just raised another $150 million and got evaluated over a couple $1 billion, which is insane. But at the same time, like, this is not a show where we're trying to sit here and pound on our chest and tell you all the different strategies you need to, insert into your business. Like, this is a show where we're all learning together. Right. So KD's in the room listening to a Steve Ballmer. Like, how many times do you get a chance to, and it's about access too, though, man. Right. Like, we listened to a story from Steve Ballmer. We're like, well, how'd you get started? He's like, well, I just happened to be next to Bill Gates at the right time. What? Like, so now you're telling me, granted, you have to have the certain intellect to continue to, leverage your brand and build it, but it's about access and it's about being around the right kind of people.
You could have pulled up Bill Gates at a hamburger stand, though. We saw Bill Gates waiting for a hamburger.
But look, that whole conversation with Steve just turned into him owning the Clippers and how they're moving to Inglewood and how they're going into tax abatements and how they're building out retail around it. You're like, oh, this is like you're looking at this as a multi-billion-dollar business. And how many minorities do we have as far as team ownerships, even from a woman's perspective? Mm-hmm. Like Clara Tsai, who is a minority owner of the Brooklyn Nets, like is out here putting in work, and she's from China, and what she's doing with justice reform, what they're doing with the Nets, what they did with the Liberty and buying the Liberty. I mean, we need to talk about more of that so that becomes the norm, and we hear other young people of minority or different ethnic backgrounds that understand that they can achieve that same thing.
That's the truth. The one problem that we always have is we always feel like, well, we give excuses too much. Oh, I don't have any money, I can't start. Oh, well, they got this, or I couldn't do that. And that's my problem with our people sometimes is sometimes we don't want to put in the work. And we want the end of the rainbow before we actually work for it. You know what I mean? And that's my one problem I see all the time with people.
Well, it's almost like we sabotage ourselves all the time.
We tuck ourselves out of it. Right?
Exactly. Well, I can't do this. I don't have the resources. Like my thing is, it's almost like my accident. I used to say why all the time, and it became why not me? Like, yeah, I can do it. I mean, Robert Johnson started BET with a $15,000 loan. With a loan. Like, you can go to friends and scrape up money if you have the right kind of strategy in place and you surround it with the right people. But it's also about allowing our young people to have access to the right people. So, and look, I'll own it. I think sometimes when you try to climb the ladder, you're so busy climbing, you're so busy trying to achieve that you forget to pass it forward. You forget to reach down and say, yo, come up with me. And now I think watching what LeBron's doing, watching what KD is doing, it's about like, hey, let's rise up together. Like, let's share this and let's help other people.
Is that why you decided to create this show?
I think so, and I also think it's been part of our world, man. Like, I find myself in rooms with some incredibly powerful people where I'm sitting there like, how the hell did I get here? Like, I didn't play in the league for 15 years. Like, but I'm in room with Jack Dorsey or other people. So, yeah, let's allow other people to have insight into how this world works, like how you can be in a room wearing jeans and a T-shirt, negotiating a multi-billion-dollar deal or TV rights or whatever it may be, social media, and just understand how that world works so that vernacular becomes common knowledge. So then all of a sudden when you're in the room and you hear a language that you may not understand, you don't feel like you need to bolt from the room. You can understand how to bridge that gap and maybe tread water for a couple of minutes until you can pick a good point in the conversation to make a point, and then maybe back out. And then maybe when you leave the conversation, go back and do some research so you're more informed about how you can leverage that the next time.
You know how I get in on those conversations?
How?
I'm like, I don't know what the fuck y'all talking about, but hey, put me on, school me. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't be afraid to say, yo, school me.
Let me learn. So we even
right.
did that with Steve Ballmer. Like, how do we get other minorities to own teams?
Right.
And then you start doing research. You're like, all right, Serena and Venus Williams, like they own a small percentage of the Miami Dolphins. Like Shaquille O'Neal, he owns a small percentage of the Sacramento Kings. Obviously, Michael Jordan with Charlotte, with LeBron James, with his team in Liverpool. Like, there are moves out there that are happening, but we need to provide more visibility to that so other people can see that and we can start talking about that.
All right.
That's a challenge.
Absolutely. Now, I wanted to ask you about this tweet that LeBron put out, right? Well, I want to see what you think about it, because he was talking about trading, and he said, traded this man while he was literally playing in the game and has zero idea. I'm not knocking who traded him because it's a business. But then he also says that he wants, when a player wants to be traded or leaves a franchise, instead of them being called selfish or ungrateful, you should be able to voice that. So do you think that because when teams trade you, it's business, it's cool. But when a player speaks up and says, I want to be traded, I don't want to be here anymore, and that's considered like you can't do that, you get fined for that, you think that they should be able to say when they do want to be traded?
100%. I mean, I talked to Rich Paul about this the other day. We were just rapping about AD, and he's like, yo, people do this all the time. Like, people say all the time they do not want to be here. Now, granted, what's happening in LA with Showtime, I think that's an occupational hazard of Showtime in management. I think they still have a lot to learn about the business. But, I mean, they have every right to tell the world that they don't want to be there anymore if he doesn't want to be there. And by the way, the players are the ones who are owning the power right now. I mean, you have the LeBron James who's making those moves. You have the Kevin Durant's who potentially make that move or not make that move. And AD is another guy that fits in that same category. If you do not want to be there, and the fans need to look at it differently too. Like, I get it. Like, when a team trades you, like they're kind of pissed off, but it's like, it's on management, it's okay. But then when a guy doesn't want to be there, like, you want to hate on that, but it's a business all the way around for everybody.
The problem is social media. And what I mean by that is back in the day, it was a time where Kobe said he wanted to leave the Lakers for a second.
Yes.
You didn't hear about it immediately all around the world. So everybody has an opinion quick, fast, in a hurry.
Well, that's the thing, though. We conflate opinion with facts these days. You don't know, and with clickbait, you don't know when you click on something. Like, so many times, like, I came out and I said that I thought the Duke basketball team could beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. That was a headline, okay? But if you actually heard what I said in my entirety, like, literally 7 players for the Cavs were out.
I think they could beat the Knicks right now. I ain't gonna front.
It's close.
I think they could beat.
It's close.
I think they could beat the Cavs too.
And my thing, I was even talking about the bottom 6 or 7 guys on the roster, and people are like, oh, you said they could beat the Cavs. I'm like, see, that's our problem, though. You read a headline, and you take headline as fact, and you don't even do, and you actually read through in the article, and it says at the bottom of the article, well, he was actually talking about the last 7 players on the bench. But people don't even get all the way to that point.
But even then, why couldn't they beat the Cavs this year? You were talking about the number 1, 2, and 4 pick in the draft. That's next year. They come in the league and change the league. So why couldn't they beat the Cavs this year?
I think in the best of 3 series, they potentially could win 1 game. Jordan Clarkson, Rodney Hood, those boys are still really good. I understand that. Yeah. But still, I mean, those are things that's based upon opinion. Mm-hmm. That's not me saying, hey, there are facts to prove that Duke can beat the Cavs. You're allowed to have an opinion. Mm-hmm. So,
do you think your life experience of having to retire early due to the accident taught you like valuable lessons when it came to business and investing on what to do with your money?
Yeah, man, because I didn't make $150 million, so I got lucky because Jerry Reinsdorf, they could have null and voided my contract, because in my contract and one of the addendums, I was not allowed to ride motorcycles. Right? You're not allowed to go skydiving or be in a car that goes faster than 95 miles per hour, stuff like that. So I was able to get the second part of my contract for the second year. And I was able to take that, but my thing is I had to learn to work. It's like the reverse pyramid strategy, right? Like I had to work from the bottom up. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden I became an employee. I mean, for my first 6 or 7 years at ESPN, I made $40,000. And then I started a company called Clandestine Ventures, because all of a sudden people started to think, well, if I wanted to get involved in other businesses, I couldn't be successful being on TV because it was taking away from my attention of paying attention to sports. And I'm like, that's not the case. So then if it's, now having a restaurant in the East Village called The Cabin, if it's investing in an analytics company called Symmetry, where we help, with the back channeling of analytics for apps and for different companies, if it's doing what we're doing with KD and company with 35 Ventures as far as investments or creating media, all these different things around, investing in CBD, and actually talking intellectually about it, just not saying, hey, here's a vape, and somebody saying, well, what percentage of THC is in that? Well, I don't really know. Well, and without, it's like, hey, we have an actual rub that you can rub in your knee, and I'd rather use that because I had addiction issues to OxyContin for a very long time.
I live by the rub.
Right?
I got the rub.
What kind of rub
gummies.
you talking about? Oh, okay. Make sure we clarify. Sorry, Andrew, I had to ask you. He said it.
I got the CBD rub. I got the CBD rub for the muscles and joints. I got the gummies.
You got to do it,
syrup.
man. You got to do it. You got to do it. So all these different things, it's like, how am I diversifying my portfolio? And just like you guys, how am I using my platform to leverage and just not get antiquated marketing deals anymore and getting taxed on 50 cents on the dollar?
Right.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I actually want to make long-term money. I want to make long-term wealth. I want to create that.
Now, the first episode, you guys are talking about sneakers and the whole sneaker culture, which was an interesting conversation, because you think about, of course, nowadays with players, it's not just how great you are on the court. It's also more of a lifestyle thing, too.
It is. And also even understanding the sneaker business, right? And I think it's something that culturally we're into sneakers. Like, just take it another level for all the kids out there. Understand, like, hey, Foot Locker just invested $150 million into GOAT, right? It's a secondary marketing tool for sneakers, secondary market for sneakers, right? And it's close to a $2 billion industry. So if you have some pairs of dope kicks, like, put them on a StockX, put them on a GOAT, like, sell them. You can make 3 multiple off what you paid for, because people love the culture of sports. I mean, look, I found this out about ESPN a couple years ago. Like 7 years ago, we used to play heavy metal music going to break off NBA games. Right? Now we're playing hip hop going to breaks. Like, hip hop has become like pop music to everybody now.
It is pop culture.
Right? So if you have that culture, if you understand, the strength of it, take advantage of it. And it comes with just doing research and doing your due diligence.
How did you and KD get a business relationship?
I met Rich Kleiman, back in 2001 from a party I went to with Scooter Braun. Literally, we were just hanging out with Method Man, and next thing I know, I'm meeting Rich, and we talk a little bit. And then Scott had connected us maybe about a year ago, and we just started talking about what we do in our lives. And he was like, hey, I got this idea that I want to do with KD. We want to find a way to create a platform where we could bring all of our friends, bring you guys on board, talk about what you're doing, and have conversations about how people got started. Like create a forum where people are talking about their struggles and how they started their business, where they see future markets in their potential industries, and really just work together and collaborate.
Yeah.
And just create content. I mean, everybody's in this content Wild West space anyway.
Yeah.
So we can be informative with the content that we create with people that are able to move the needle from a culture perspective.
Right.
That's dope shit.
Now, we see these guys like LeBron, we see KD. Are they anomalies, or are athletes really getting smarter when it comes to business?
I think athletes are really getting smarter coming to business. Obviously, you got those people that are in the rarefied air, but I mean, look at the TV rights deals that are happening right now with sports. It was it was in the double-digit $1 billion that you're getting these rights to sports. So due to the CBA, there's revenue sharing. So you have athletes that are making more money than ever right now. You have guys that are marginal players, right? Guys who are scoring 11, 12 points who are signing 4 years, $75 million deals.
Wow.
Envy, it really makes me want to come back for a 10-day contract, man. It's just out there. So I think that the money is getting so high, man, that's getting to this point where it's like, all right, great. Like you just made $70 million off of 4 years. After taxes, say that's $35 million. Now, how are you investing that money? What kind of things are you doing with that money so you can create that long, sustained wealth that we all want, we all talk about doing, but then when you see our habits are conducive to doing that.
Yeah.
Because we spending money on frivolous stuff. It's like, we literally, during the boardroom conversation with PJ Tucker, we found out he spent $30K for a pair of shoes.
I seen that pair of sneakers.
Right? And literally by the time the conversation was over, like we donned him as a sneaker king. People have donned him as a sneaker king of the NBA. Like I think in the playoff games that he played last year, I think he wore 24 pairs of sneakers and he only played 20 games.
Wow.
He was changing them up, but he said it was because of some type of luck thing he felt.
Exactly, right? Just like that, how he feels with the game. But
he clearly don't have a sneaker deal with nobody.
He doesn't. Well, I think he has a merch deal with Nike.
Okay.
But we were talking about it during the show, and we were like, he was like, "Nah, I don't like that." And KD was like, "Why do you not like that? Market yourself as a sneaker king of the NBA." Like, and then he started talking about all these different sketches that he's done before, and he brought out this book, and he's like, these are all the different designs. And we're like, why wouldn't you market yourself as a designer, as a thought leader for this space? Since people pay attention to all the sneakers you wear, brand yourself as that. And then go to an Adidas or go to a Nike and say, hey, I want to work with a Virgil, or I want to work with a Kanye, and create a pair of sneakers and own it. Like, those are the little things that just happen out of a conversation after you ideate, where somebody leaves the table and I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, the boardroom will capture a percentage of your business that you have after you leave this room. But like, those are the kind of things that we need to continue to ideate on.
But you know what I realized with a lot of players, and not just NBA, NFL, they honestly don't know. And a lot of times the people around them just try to, I wouldn't even say fake. They don't know either, but they just try to invest in things that they don't know, and it winds up fucking up the money all the time. And I notice that I see that in a lot of real estate. I see a lot of players invest in real estate, and what they're doing in real estate is they're not basically using their money to invest. They're using too much of their money to invest. They're not using a percentage. They're not.
Or using the bank's money.
And they're not using the bank's money, and they wind up not making good deals at all. And I'm like, and that's what we're doing. We're helping a lot of players that necessarily don't know what they're doing, and helping them invest in properties and invest in things that they'll make money for a long time down the road, because a lot of them just don't know.
I mean, let me tell you how this happens, though. So, I was very fortunate to come from an affluent background where my dad worked at Amex. My mom was a principal, okay? Like, I was an anomaly, but that wasn't the world I lived in. Like, I lived in a different world as a hooper. Like, you're in lower socioeconomical backgrounds, and you're just playing hoops, right? So I would see some of my other friends get drafted, and I will also know that there's such a business behind the business of what they get drafted. So the agents are paying money to different family members or, different accountants or social advisors, whatever it may be, financial advisors, are paying money, and everybody's trying to get to the kids. So, as a kid, all of a sudden now you're about to make all this money, and all these people come out of nowhere. You don't know who the hell to trust. So who do you trust? You trust some of your family members.
Right.
You're looking at your family members, no clue. And by the way, their hands are in your pocket, because if they bring you to the table for an agent or for a financial advisor, they're getting a percentage of your deals. Right. So then all of a sudden you're making those kind of decisions. That's the foundation of how you're looking at your business. And that's why, doing shows like this, or saying, hey, look, send me a DM. I could put you with the right people. Like, we need people to start reaching out and be like, yo, it's not about I don't trust my family. You can still trust your family, but you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And there's some powerful people out there. As if you're a father, like if I'm going to say something to my daughter one day, if she gets lucky enough to be a professional athlete, which is a whole different conversation from conversation perspective, but I'm going to say, hey, if there's something I don't know, but I have the right people that I've surrounded myself with, so you can use them as a board.
Well, you know what? Not even that. You know, with me, I got so many artists and athletes that call me all the time, especially about real estate, and they want to learn. And the first thing I always tell them, if you want to learn, I want you to come with me. And the reason I say that is because I want you to see it for yourself. It's different when somebody just invests your money and you see it come back and you don't really have to know about it. But I want you to see it and smell it and see what it is. Even if you make $100 million, it doesn't matter. I want you to go into the property. I want you to see what you're buying. I want to see how that money comes back. I want to see how it fixes, and it opens up their mind to a whole different thing, and they understand it more. You know what I mean? But a lot of people just invest and they don't know what they're investing in.
But a lot of people don't have that innate ability to want to work. Like I love the grind. I mean, like every single day, like I love waking up and saying, hey, what's my why? Okay, how am I going to attack my day?
Right.
Like, is there something I can do today? Can we create content today? Is there a different business opportunity that comes to the table today? How do I vet it? So I think understanding how to love that process is something that, you know, if you're an artist and you're making a lot of money, like you're not thinking long term.
Right.
You're too busy in that short term moment. So my thing is, if that is the case for you, then be smart enough to, you know, carefully invest your time in the people that you think love to work too.
Right.
You got to start paying attention to that, right? Like, you know, we have a manager in Karen Kinney. I know I can speak personally. Like every day, Karen's like, "Brrrah," and I'm like, God damn, like she just hit me with 7 different things, right? But that's who she is every single day.
She's more of our business partner. At
Exactly,
this point,
exactly.
Yeah,
But but I love that because she drives me. She pushes me. Right? So I think the more you can surround yourself with people like that who are informed, and the more you can actually say no too. You can't be afraid to fire people. If somebody ain't carrying their weight, if they're not carrying their weight and they're more of a hanger-on, like, yo, I love you, but this is business. I got to let you go.
I mean, I think the most important thing that everybody in this room is doing is dispensing the information. Because a lot of times we say that our people don't want to work, but they really just don't have the information. They don't even know where to work. You know what I mean? So like what you're doing with your show, whatever you're doing in real estate, we're giving them the information.
And that's what it's about, man. It's, you know, this show for me is such a bigger thing. When I go and when I talk to kids, and this is only from my personal experience, but, you know, growing up a predominantly African-American and Latin neighborhood and then going to school in a predominantly white school, like every time I would go to school wearing my kicks or wearing my pants down a little bit, I got called being ghetto. I got called being black. And then when I went back home and I started talking about things that happened politically or things that I learned in chemistry class, I was called an Uncle Tom. I was called being a sellout. So when I go on the streets and I work with some of these kids, like I want them to have informed conversations with me. I want this to be the new norm. I want you to be smart and not be called an Uncle Tom or a sellout. That's the only way that we're going to change it from a foundational perspective so we can start being in that rarefied air and start having these conversations and start owning our own shit.
You think we're getting to a point now where athletes are being encouraged to have more social awareness by the teams and by brands?
I think this generation of athlete, I applaud them. I commend them all the time because you know, look, I understand, you know, MJ's perspective on things, and I see him doing more now than what he did as a player. But that's why I said before that I thought LeBron James was the greatest player of all time, just because what he's done openly, how he stepped up and challenged people. Hey, I'm not only going to make a comment about, you know, Laura Ingraham and what her comments were on Fox, but now I'm going to make a documentary about it. So it lives forever. Because we all know how this social media informational age goes. Like, I can't even tell you what we talked about last week. But if you create content and then all of a sudden it sits there on that platform, it's forever there to remind you of what actually occurred. So when I see him do things like that, when I see what KD is doing, like, these are the next level of people that are leading us and speaking out about social issues that are important that we should have conversations about.
You think team owners are encouraging that yet, or you think they still would rather it be just about the game?
I think team owners are in a different position, and I think that's what you kind of see Puffy with, right? Like Puffy, Diddy really wants to be a team owner. But it's hard for Diddy to speak out on different social issues when you have to become part of that 0.00001%, which is a boys club. Like that boys club has to allow you to come in.
Right.
If you take far stances on issues that they don't agree with, you're probably not going to get in that rarefied air. So I think everybody, you're conflicted to a certain point. Do I stand up for the culture? Do I stand up for things that really mean something? If that hinders what I can do business-wise or hinders my dreams, now I believe that you should. But at the same time, like, I'm not paying bills for people. Like, you got to live your own life. So I think it's a challenge for a lot of people to try to break into that, which, I I mean, you don't have a lot of minorities from a ethnic position or from a women's position as well within pro football or pro basketball.
Now, let me ask you a question. LeBron said the other day that he's good with the league. He's nothing he needs to get out of the league anymore. A lot of people were like, that's not GOAT talk. That's not the talk where you want to destroy and win 20 rings. That's not that conversation. How did you feel about when he said that?
I have to understand the context of it. What does he mean? What do you think he means, get out of the league?
He said he's not chasing anything.
He's not chasing anything anymore.
Look, I can't. We fight about this, and I like I said before, I think the GOAT talk was more for what LeBron is, the whole package, what he's done off the court. I think from a competitive standpoint, man, that's where Jordan will always be that. He'll always be that dude. He never turns that switch off.
I think Kobe too.
Kobe too. I agree. Kobe's in that light too. But the interesting part about that though is we always try to do enough to prove to everybody else about what we are. Why? Like LeBron James doesn't have to do anything for us anymore. Like he doesn't have to prove anything to us. He has everything to prove to himself. And I think he's found that place where he's competing with himself. Obviously, this year has been a challenge, him being in L.A. I watched that game last night where they lost to the Hawks. Like it looked like my man had checked out. I'm sure this is a different scenario for him being with a lot of young dudes, losing a lot of games and every single day being in the media. But it also comes along with the territory.
He didn't go to L.A. to win no games, though. We know that. He went to L.A.
to be in LA.
To build his empire for the next 20 years.
Well, he went to L.A. I think, look, he always wants to win. I mean, obviously this year they're going to have a ton of cap space. I mean, you really entrust in Magic and Rob Pelinka to bring those kind of people to the table. If that's a Kawhi Leonard or an Anthony Davis, or you try to get a Kyrie Irving or some of the top free agents out there. So I understand what you're saying. I agree with you on that, but I think there also is a basketball part too. He is a basketball junkie. That's all he lives for. It's like we were out in L.A. filming this whole thing, and afterwards, like KD just literally was watching hoops all day. Like watching, like studying and dissecting the moves Michael Jordan was making. Saying to me like, hey, like that's why Jordan's the GOAT, the way he competes each and every day, like studying that craft. Like you have to be obsessive compulsive about your craft in order to be great at it. And that's what some of these guys have too. So trust me, I'm sure LeBron wants to win.
Yeah, LeBron good. LeBron won a ring in Cleveland, bro.
Who's the next GOAT though? That's the question.
I guess Zion. I guess.
You guys not Giannis?
Giannis already there, though.
Is he? Is he already there?
I mean, I don't know.
Hey, if Anthony Davis is trying to force a trade out of New Orleans, do you think Giannis is going to force a trade out of Milwaukee?
Of course he is.
Yes.
But I'm saying with a guy like Zion seemed like one of those players how LeBron was, like one of those generational players that's going to have all the marketing, all the promo behind him. The league is going to say, this is the next guy. Giannis doesn't necessarily have that when he came
I just think
out.
they're on bad franchises. People don't really love Milwaukee.
Small
they don't
market.
really love New Orleans as a team. It's not the big New York, Chicago, Miami, L.A.
And they didn't have the hype coming in. Like, you got to have that hype coming in. LeBron had that hype coming in.
I agree. This is where
Did Kobe have the hype coming in though?
No, it didn't. Because coming out of high school. But even it's funny, like watching how much we promote. Like we watched a commercial last night while I was about getting ready to do ESPN, and it was like a highlight. It was like a Zion Williamson infomercial.
Yep.
And you're like, yo, this is crazy. Like, this dude has dope content, and he ain't being paid for nothing.
Right.
Nothing. Like, and if you had an argument before that, like, oh, players should just be happy not to get paid and just get their education, I'm like, then you start seeing the way other entities have promoted some of these players to build the brand. Like, no, it's a multi-billion-dollar business.
What does the NBA do now? Because, no matter what team you get drafted to, if it's not the top 5 market, you wait till your rookie contract's over, and then you want to get traded. You want to go to a big market. And then what happens is those teams in those small markets always suck.
It's called capitalism, though. I mean, what can you do unless you put a franchise tag on people? I mean, that's what NFL tries to do, and there's some backlash on that. So, I mean, I think it's a tough situation for him. I think, sometimes I would love to see bigger players in small markets stay, but the reality is guys want to be where guys want to be. And right now, teams aren't controlling the NBA. The players are controlling the league.
Yeah, and let's not act like everybody wants to be in big markets.
That's true.
Because New York sucks. And it sucked for a long time. Nobody want to be here. Right?
He's all right.
Come to Brooklyn.
I mean, yeah, he got to come to some games,
Brooklyn
man.
might be sexy.
Brooklyn.
He's all right. Well, we appreciate you for joining us, man.
Much
When
love
the
and
show
respect,
air?
man. It already came out. It came out Monday. The first 2 are behind the paywall for ESPN on ESPN Plus. Everything's going direct to consumer now anyway. So $4.99 per month which is great. And
how many episodes are there?
there are 6 episodes in total, but the first 2 came out. We did another one with Brown and Mav, which would be pretty cool. That'll air, around when those 2 teams meet up. But that'll be a fascinating one to watch.
Now, question: you talked about sneakers. What's the most you spent on a pair of sneakers?
Most I spent on a pair of sneakers, free $99. Yo,
you ain't paying no money for no sneakers.
No.
He got on Gucci sneakers right now.
No,
I'm kidding.
no. I had to look down to make sure they weren't Gucci. See me, I was like, Hands got me in that one though. Free $99, man. I just barter deals. Barter deals with brands. I do it all the time.
All right. Well, it's Jay Williams.
Respect.
It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.